right, welcome to the Skybox at Newsarama Skybox here at New York Comic Con. I'm Grace Randolph.
Pete LePage.
And we have Katie Cook, who is the talk of the convention.
Yeah,
I know.
With My Little Pony.
That's terrifying. No one should be talking about me this much. It's weird.
Terrifying or amazing?
A little bit of both. Because, I don't know if you know this, I'm an indie creator first and foremost.
Not anymore.
And now it's, all of a sudden I have a best-selling book.
Yeah, well,
that no one expected.
Well, there are a lot of announcements at New York Comic Con, but I think what took everyone by surprise is the announcement how many copies have been ordered for your first issue.
Over My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, #1, pre-sold 90,100 plus copies.
Well, just to put that into perspective, that's more than Marvel and DC's books.
Yeah, those are Marvel and DC event numbers.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was about to say another bad word.
No.
Tone it down for a little while.
No, please, go to town.
But, when I was setting up on Thursday, I was here before the show opened, and all of a sudden my phone kept going off, and I was ignoring it because I was trying to set up. And then finally I was like, what the hell?
Who wants to reach me so badly?
It's like I finally answered my phone because it was a lot of different people. And I was getting texts that I was ignoring, so I finally answered one of the phone calls, and they went, "Did you see the Bleeding Cool article?" And I was like, "No." And they said, "That says My Little Pony sold over 90,000 copies." And I said, "Bullshit. That's not true.
Don't prank me when I'm setting up."
Someone would have told me.
Yeah.
They were trying to tell you.
And then all of a sudden I was like, all right, Bleeding Cool's kind of reliable. I'm going to go look this up. And then, my stomach kind of went,
Oh, wow.
And then I called the artist, Andy, and I was like, so people are going to read this, apparently. Because, when Andy and I basically took on the book, we made it for us.
Yeah.
Basically thinking that, if people are going to treat it like a throwaway property, because people, when we announced the book, were like, oh, it's just going to be for little girls, it's just going to be this, or it's going to be, playing to this audience, and I'm not going to read it. So I was like, well, that's not the book I write.
Well, that's not the case with My Little Pony. One of the reasons it's so successful is because it's such
property.
All gender. I mean, both genders. You've got, the brownies.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's, we now have a #1 selling book that's not only a kid's book, it's a girl book that goes across genders. And I know that's unprecedented. That's crazy. And that's one of the things that's blowing my mind, because I'm such an advocate for all ages comics. And I keep getting told all ages comics don't sell the numbers that superhero books do. All ages comics don't sell this. All ages comics will always be second.
And they've been on the decline because of that.
And now we have a shining example that not only can an all ages book debut in the #1 spot, it can have pastel ponies in it. I mean, with cute pictures on their butts.
Oh,
that's why it's a headline.
It's blowing my mind.
Now, are you freaking out like, oh man, do you obviously you won't change the way you're writing, but
No.
is those numbers gonna?
Well, I'm definitely not going to be reading any reviews anymore, because whenever I see a bad review of something I do, it stabs me in the heart each time. It's like this little chunk. It's like you got to keep little chunks on the floor each time. And I have my husband read all the review boards now, and he's only allowed to tell me the nice ones.
Oh, I'm sure he'll have a lot to tell you.
But, like I said, I wrote this book for me, and it's how I would approach an episode or how I would approach the property.
Well, how would you?
Well, I approach it as an all-ages book. I don't want it to be Barbie Princess Party, going to the bunny farm. That's not how I write. That's not the book I would give to my daughter. I approached it as an epic pony adventure. They go on a quest, and there's monsters and crazy stuff and magic, and it's a fantasy story, and it just so happens to have ponies in it. But it's also funny and sarcastic, and I try to keep all of the ponies, in their voice on the show, because it's so popular, and I knew I was going to get ragged on if I tried to take them away from who they are. And thankfully, Hasbro's been really supportive. They really like what I'm doing. And I got a really nice comment from one of them yesterday that they were reading issue 2 on the subway, and they were laughing out loud for the whole thing. And they were like, "Oh my God, that part with this! I had to hold it in." It's like, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear the people were laughing. And I've let a few people read through the comic at my table, like mega uber fans. I gave them a little bit of sneak peek and let them go through my iPad.
Did anyone make a run for it?
Well, it's all of a sudden they're like, what? So I let them read it, and they put it down. They're like, I love it. I don't have a complaint about it because I said I want your honest opinion. And I have another friend who writes for Ninja Turtles, and he said that he made a crack to Bobby Curnow, the editor, is like, pony schmonies, turtles are more important.
Not anymore.
And Bobby came back and he was like, oh no, the ponies take precedence. So he was asking me, he's like, why do ponies take precedence? And I told him the number, and then I let him read it, and he was commenting that I did a great job making it a funny book. Because I love,
great.
That's what comics are. They're funny books.
Humor. Yeah.
So I wanted to make a funny comic because that's what I do. I write humor. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that was surprising about the My Little Ponies is it's brownies, right?
Bronies.
Okay, bronies.
Yeah, don't get that wrong.
For those of you who don't know, bronies are male fans, often adult male fans of My Little Pony. Do you understand that phenomenon? Have you looked into it?
I do. It's because, if you watch the show, it has an all ages appeal, and it's an epic fantasy story. And every episode, there's magic, and there's just kind of quirky, silly writing. It's kind of like Adventure Time, but with ponies, and not quite as. I don't really know how to explain that. But that's what it is.
I think anybody who watches My Little Pony knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's fun, and I started watching it not because I have a kid, but I have a friend that works on the show, and it was finally like, oh, you don't watch my show? I was like, I'm sorry. And my older brother was a brony before I started watching it.
That's fantastic.
So I came in at the end of season 1, and I watched a few episodes, and then I went and downloaded all of them on iTunes. I was like, oh, I'm in. Let's do this. And then I was a big fan all through season 2, and that's one of the reasons I got approached for it, is because I was really vocal on Twitter about how great this show was. And it's like, I know that I'm a 30-year-old woman, but I love this show. And, I've met a lot of male fans, and I can totally see why they love it. And, people that give them slack can suck it. I don't know. It's...
Well, writing the book, what are some of, like you said, you come from a humor aspect. What was some of the fun things that you got to do when you had the characters, or what did you find?
Well, it's kind of, it's very organic when you're kind of writing them, because you know how they speak on the show and what their personalities are. So when you're writing a scene, you all of a sudden think of a great one-liner that Rainbow Dash would say, and there's a character named Pinkie Pie, in case you guys watched the show.
We saw the T-shirt earlier.
Yeah.
Lance, the head of the comic convention, got it.
She's kind of batshit crazy and really random. So you get to write a lot of really great, weird scenes with her. It's like whenever you need that moment of humor and you don't want to force it with one of the other characters, you can just have her say the most asimine thing on the planet. And it works.
Well, who's your favorite My Little Pony? I have to
Twilight
ask.
Sparkle.
Yeah.
Twilight Sparkle
lead,
is kind of
right?
the main, but I'm a list maker. I'm really OCD, and I have lists about my lists, and then I have another list, and then I have a list on my hand about don't forget that list. And she's very much like that. And there's an entire episode where she basically forgets something that's on her list, and her eye gets all twitchy, and she goes crazy. And so they're relatable. There are some relatable traits. So yeah. I'm hooked. I love this show.
It's great. It feels like such a perfect fit, and I'm so glad that it's so successful.
Yeah, I can only hope that the numbers, I know there'll probably be a decline after the hype, but I can only hope that Andy and I do a good enough job that we can at least keep them up.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if IDW's ever had a book sell like this.
Well, can you set up the first issue for us?
Basically, I can tell you that there is an evil villain at the end of season 2 named Queen Crystallis, and she's a changeling. And it's basically the changelings come back and they kidnap some people that are very important to the main 6. And it's 4 issues of trying to get them back.
Great.
And I get to do a lot of really silly, like Invasions of the Body Snatchers humor and Shaun of the Dead and zombie stuff. And they don't want me to use the word zombie. But
so this is picking up directly after season 2?
Pretty much. It's kind of, in that flow. And, you can count it as being after the show, or you can take it for what it's worth afterwards.
Well,
but we kept it, in the show timeline.
How would it work with season 3 then?
I have no idea.
Okay.
There are some things that I would write, and they would send a script back and say, you can't do that. We touched on that in an episode in season 3. So I only know bits and pieces of what's happened in season 3. But I can only hope that they look at the comic and say, well, they've already done that, so let's not, touch on that. But I tried to not put in stuff that they would have to deal with.
So before you go, let's definitely talk about your online comic.
Yay!
Yeah.
Let's from Gronk.
Gronk, yeah.
just lost the Harvey Award for Best Online Comic.
But you were nominated.
I was nominated,
yeah.
and you know what? The second you start reading the nominees, and then Hark a Vagrant is right there at the bottom, I was like, well, I'm not winning that.
Aww.
Like, oh well,
Maybe next
at least
year.
another person with a K name got it. But yeah, it was just kind of fun. But I mean, this competition stuff. I mean, Battle Pug was up for it, and Battle Pug won the Eisner, and losing a mic is not an insult. So yeah, I was just really excited. It's gruntcomic.com. Yay!
Yeah.
So before we sign off, can you just tell everybody when My Little Pony will be hitting stands?
It was going to be mid-November. It is now November 28th. It's been pushed back because of all the pre-orders, and I will be signing at Beach Ball Comics in Anaheim with Andy.
Wow.
Sometime around then.
Awesome.
Going out for a signing event, and then you can find me after that at Disneyland. So if any of you want to get me to Club 33, I wouldn't mind. I've heard it's great. There's the only place you can get alcohol. I'm a cartoonist. Alcoholism is kind of my thing. So yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's
Well,
always
thank you.
great talking with you.
Yeah.
Congratulations on all
Thank
success.
you.
And keep it here, Newsarama, for more from New York Comic Con.